So we all know what a brush cutter is, right? It's got a metal blade or a line trimmer on the bottom of it, and it cuts grass, bramble or brush. Well, this is a little bit different. This is the STIHL RGA140, and as you can see, we haven't got a cutting attachment on the end. That is where this machine is so much more different. Now, we're going to fit on the attachment in a moment, but all I can say is it's a little bit special. There's something about it that isn't run-of-the-mill, and I've never used this product before, so it's going to be interesting to see how I get on, but also who is it intended for, what can it be used for, and how effective is it in its certain applications. Well, let's go and find a box, find out what's inside and get it fitted on. And in a separate box is this special tool, the RG reciprocating blade attachment. So here it is. One book, check that out in a minute. Plug spanner. Oh, what a substantial bit of kit that is. Let's take the guard off and see what we've got here. It is like something out a post-apocalyptic war film. Real substantial gearbox there as well. Got a bit of weight to it, and the little dinky donkey guard on the back. Let's get it fitted on and give it a go. First of all, we'll take the little bung off the end. As you can see, we've got a proper metal shaft in there, no motors at the end. Undo your bolt on the bottom of the gearbox. Hopefully that just slides in like so. I think that's in. Tighten up the nut on the bottom. So it's as simple as that. I'm sure there's a torque setting that STIHL provide for this, but that seems pretty good to me. Plug a battery in and see if it starts up. I've decided to go with an AP300S battery today, but we'll discuss all the run times of all the different types of batteries later on. But I think this one will give me a happy medium for weight and also run time. Now on the triggers up here, we got an on-off button. Hopefully, if I squeeze the trigger, it will run. Very quiet, very quiet. So now we're all fitted up. It only feels right that we ought to go and put it to the test. So as this is a commercial machine, we ought to go and try it on some more commercial areas. We've got edges, we've got borders, we've got more delicate areas and even weedy, overgrown areas to see where the limitations lie for this machine, but also find out where its benefits really do come into its own. So first area is more, should we say, your domestic customers where they've got glass, they've got vehicles, and you want to trim without breaking anything. So I think this is where this machine will really come into its own. But on big open grassy areas, can you rely on this as like a conventional trimmer? Well, we'll see. Let's start back there, trim along the edge, hopefully not break any windows, and see what it can do. So let's take a look at some of the specs of the STIHL RGA140. Firstly, it's part of STIHL's AP battery range and it's designed mainly for weed and grass mowing on hard surfaces and around obstacles. It has a 1 kilowatt EC motor. The unit itself comes in about 6.4 kilos without the battery, so it's not too heavy but still feels solid in your hands. You get 230mm cutting diameter, which feels like a good balance, wide enough for covering ground quickly, but still manageable for tight areas. With the AP500S battery, you're looking at a maximum runtime of 2 hours, but any AP battery can be used. So what makes this tool stand out is the low spin mowing. Basically it cuts effectively, but doesn't throw debris everywhere, which is a big plus if you're working near cars, windows, or people walking past. Well, it is an interesting machine to say the least. Doesn't sound like it's doing anything, but it is. It's cutting the grass pretty well. The big benefit I've seen here is obviously the stones aren't being flicked. The debris is pretty much being left where I've cut it. Now, obviously over on the edge, I started off like sort of working straight on, and that wasn't the way to use it. It was kind of go like that and work round like you're going to edge the lawn. One thing I struggled with over there was actually getting that last bit and actually edging it, but I think with a normal trimmer you'd probably have to turn it on its edge anyway. This one, because it's got the cow horns, you can't do it, but you can get this RG as a KM unit, so as a multi-tool unit, so you can fit this on your KM94 or whatever you got, KM131, and actually turn this to a lawn edger as well as. Dog I say isn't flicked up. I am pretty clean. There's nothing that's gone on my trousers since I started, and it's very low revving. There's hardly any noise to it. It's literally like a pair of scissors cutting the grass, or should I call it like a scythe mower? It's, yeah, like I say, it is a very interesting machine. Certainly doing the edges, great. What about doing through the middle of grass? Can you give that sort of nice trimmed finish? I think that's the next thing. Then we'll move on to some sort of weed areas and see what it can do. It's a bit therapeutic that, cutting that grass with that machine. It's just a nice smooth motion. Let's clear up this grass and see what we got left. I think it's given a pretty decent finish, to be honest. Now, obviously with a normal line trimmer, this sort of lawn isn't that flat, so you might sort of scalp out, whereas with this one, because you've got that dish underneath, you're obviously riding that dish along all the bumps and everything. But if you go into a bit of heavier grass, you certainly do feel it. Nice and smooth. The bits that are left is probably down to user error, and I'm sure most of you guys out there that use something like this are probably well versed in how to use it. But yeah, not a bad finish really. Let's now move on to some areas which have got weeding bedded into sort of pavings, edges of curbs, and see how those blades last, because at the end of the day, they are only blades. Will they keep their edge? Now, this is exactly the area I've been looking for. Hard standings, paved areas with weed in between. So, unlike a brush cutter with a metal blade, obviously I'm hopefully not going to damage any curbstones with flying metal. The other thing with a line trimmer is you're going to use your line up quite quickly against something that is hard. What does this do? How long does the blades last, and how good a finish does it actually give? Now, previous business I used to work at, we had a maintenance guy that come around every month or so, and every time he turned up, our cars were obviously parked right up to the edge. We had to move them back. Whereas with this, because there's no fling to it, in theory vehicles can stay where they're to and you can crack on with your job. So let's see what it can do, shall we? Other features in which you get with the RGA140 are as follows: an ergonomic trigger handle with 3-speed adjuster, plus a cow horn handle that makes it effortless to clear large areas quickly. It also has a multi-point harness clamp to attach harness to the desired height. For durability, there's a metal mesh air filter, and the machine has an IPX4 splash-proof weather rating. It's Smart 2A compatible for easy fleet management. Intelligent electronics communicate the battery to the machine to give it power boost. This provides maximum torque for the respective application, and thanks to constant power feature, the RGA140 delivers maximum performance right up until the battery runs out. Now, we'll overlay an image of what it looked like before I started, but it is a pretty incredible transformation. Obviously, I've just blown the debris away of what's left, and there's a couple of straggly bits that still, you know, on or attached, shall we say, to the curb. But look at that. It is probably something you could offer as a extra service as well. That sort of weed control up against curbsides with this machine. I'm not going to say it's, you know, it's not a lasting thing. It's not going to get rid of them, but for something in more sensitive areas, it's actually really surprised me. Right, I'm going to finish this bit up, and then we're going to try some weeds and debris in between the pavers and see how the blades actually work there. So there we go, that gives you an idea of what I haven't cut into to what I have cut, and there is a huge noticeable difference there. Now obviously if I had a lot more time I could get right in and really give it a good blast, but I think, to be honest with you, that machine has surprised me a lot. But there's got to be limitations to that machine. Obviously I think it's going to be a lot slower than using it for standard line trimming for big open areas, but what about thicker stuff, and what about more, should we say, I don't know, agriculturally sort of areas? So let's head back down to the farm and try it out down there. First job is mowing under fence lines. Now James actually topped off the field over the weekend, but obviously can't get right up and right underneath with his topper. So machine like this, hopefully we'll be able to cross that bridge. How about some other applications where I can see this tool coming in handy? Sports turf management, such as trimming around golf course bunkers, caravan parks, or any areas with restricted mowing times. With a low spin cutting, there's no risk of flinging debris or grass clippings over tents or caravans. And how about tree and woodland management? This machine causes little to no damage to the base of trees or posts compared to a conventional bladed or line trimmer. Well, I'd say that is no slower than using a line trimmer, but the benefit from it is something like this line underneath here. Obviously I can ride that head over the top or underneath it without obviously damaging it. With a line trimmer, you'd probably be breaking your nylon every 5 seconds, having to then don't get on the ground to feed it out again. Thick stuff now, Brambles, it's got to fail on Brambles surely. Well, it does a job. It's like cutting with a pair of scissors, but you certainly know when you're getting into the thicker stuff because you really are feeling it getting into it. But again, it is thick, sort of bulbous material down in the bottom of those rushes. And let's try some thick bramble now. It is cutting it, but it's slow going, so I've certainly found a job that this isn't designed for. I would much prefer to put my mulching blade on the bottom of my STIHL strimmer and get rid of this stuff, because that is probably the easiest way, other than obviously riding on something. Anyway, let's round up and I'll just tell you a little bit more about that head on the end. Right, so I think the first thing to mention is obviously how sharp these blades still are. Now, looking up close, they have still got a pretty good edge to them. I did not go lightly against that concrete and that tarmac, so that has really done a good job. You probably noticed as well when I was using it, I tend to use like that sort of third, that third there. That's because that's the way it felt more comfortable. Obviously you can go back the other way as well. So my wear point would be that 120 degrees quadrant up there. What you can do with that blade setup is you can sharpen them by a file, 45 degree sharpening angle. But what you can also do is undo the blade setup and actually turn them around as well. So you've kind of got sharpening as well as 3 points of contact on the blade. So you've got sort of 3 lots of lives out of the blade as such. So that's obviously a good little point. Looking after the blades, something like Super Clean would work really well with it. Obviously keep any resin and sap off the blades so you're cutting into grass. Keep that nice and clean. The other thing is something like greasing wise, particularly important, especially with this sort of more flatter gearbox, is you've got a greasing point on the top, so you can undo that, screw that one in, a couple of pea-size mounts in there, that'll keep you going. That's really maintenance wise what you need to look at on the head itself. Harness wise, that's what comes as standard. Looks quite a comfortable harness, but as we had the STIHL Advanced X-Flex FS harness with us, we thought, well, it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? That harness is probably the most comfortable brush cutting harness that we have used in a long while. You can get that brush cutter really set up comfortably. For a lot of the jobs I was doing, I wanted the head flat, so you can get that drop right down and it is just super comfortable. So I think we can safely see that this has some limitations in the fact that it doesn't cope with thick undergrowth very quickly. It will do it the odd bit, if you had a bit of bramble coming up through some paving, you want to nip it off, it would do it. Brush cutting, it's not designed for that. It is a weed and delicate clearance machine for areas which are more sensitive. And I tell you what, it's certainly worth probably having a machine like this in your armory for areas that have got windows or a greenhouse or anything like that, because it's more cost effective than having to replace a window on a commercial or domestic property. So that is the STIHL RGA140. I didn't actually think at the start of the video I knew what I was going to say about it, but the more I used it, the more I can see a place in the market for it. One thing I would like is potentially not a cow horn system and have this as a dedicated brush cutter but with a D-loop on there. I think then you could utilize it for your edging a lot easier. Now I know you can get the RGKM unit that you can fit onto your multi-tool, which is obviously all well and good, and you might look at that if you've already got a multi-tool and you just want that bottom end piece. But cool machine, a very cool machine from STIHL. Anyway, we're Machinery Nation. We bring you product videos every week all about tools and machinery. We got plenty more STIHL content, so if you are a STIHL fan, I have dropped another one to the bottom corner, so hopefully you've got time to watch that, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.